Hello there, and welcome to this edition of Thought for the Week. It's always a pleasure to be talking to you. Always so good to know that we can share good things from the scriptures with one another at a time in history when we need encouragement. You must have noticed how much of the media and even the government and people in general are turning against the Lord Jesus and against anybody who dares to say, I believe in the uniqueness of the Lord Jesus and I believe in a lifestyle based on the scriptures. Now that isn't popular, and many people would call it non-PC. It's not the way to behave. Unfortunately, we don't have any choice. If we are followers of Jesus, we have to be followers of Jesus, and that's unequivocal. There's no choice in the matter. Remember how the apostles once spoke to the Sanhedrin and said, "We must obey God rather than men." Well, that was an expensive choice, and it's likely to be expensive for us too. So we need to be encouraged by the example of those first believers, because they began to get it right at the very start, and the way they lived can be so instructive for the way in which we're to live as believers. And we read in Acts chapter 2 that they devoted themselves to certain things. That word devotion is a very strong term. It's the kind of term that you use of your wife or your husband. In other words, this is the only person that matters really in my life. Nobody can compare with this person. And so the early Christians gave that kind of close attention to being followers of Jesus. But that expressed itself in certain ways. And what we're told here is that they devoted themselves to the apostles' doctrine, that is to say, the teaching of the apostles, and to the fellowship. That's the second thing that's listed here, the fellowship. This word fellowship is a very common word amongst Christian churches, amongst Christians in general. We talk a lot about fellowship. But what do we mean by it? Well, in many people's understanding, fellowship is a kind of Christian heartiness. You know, backslapping, smiling at one another, calling each other bro, short for brother, or whatever. It's a very attractive thing, but it doesn't have much substance to it. In the New Testament, the word fellowship means far more than that. You could sum it up as being a shared life, where you tell it like it is, you confess your faults to one another, you pray for one another, you minister the word to one another. You do everything you can to encourage faith, to encourage that walk with the Lord, which is so difficult, but so basic to church life. Fellowship. The Greek word is koinonia. It's a nice word, but it means a number of things. For one thing, it means shared finances, a new attitude to my money. Oh, crumbs. That's something that isn't very popular today. It certainly means sharing my problems with you and having you share yours with me, but ever and always on the basis of trust. You can only do it, can't you, when you really trust somebody. And that's what fellowship is all about. Mutual trust, mutual sharing, mutually growing in our faith. Growing more like Jesus every day. Exciting stuff. That's the business of fellowship. Those early Christians were devoted to it. Pretty challenging stuff, eh? Bye-bye for now.